something funny for you, Mitch, it's important what I'm about to tell you, because we've been. Oh, are you just getting up? What are you doing? Do you have a? I thought you were gonna go grab something Cinco de Mayo like.
Oh, did I miss the important message?
You didn't. I waited for you. Don't worry. But Mitch, there's the last 2 days have been days that actually have like what day it is in their name, right? So it was May the 4th be with you. So everyone knew it was May 4th. It was like the first time anyone knew what day it was in the last like 35 days. And then, Matt, we're gonna get to Matt's haircut in a second. Hold on. And then today is Cinco de Mayo, which is also telling everyone what day it is. So 2 days in a row, the world knows, well, at least the United States knows what day it is.
The simulation's been broken, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm telling you.
In the system, so.
This is Camera Shop Talk for May 5th. I don't have I used to put sombrero, but I don't anymore. And so I'm just wearing this floral shirt instead. So, but we're joined by wildlife photographer Matt Dirksen.
Hey,
Welcome
Matt.
to the show. And now I'll put Lauren.
Thanks for having me.
That looks like a quarantine haircut, Matt. And
Yes.
but it's not that bad.
No, I was due for a haircut the day Colorado went into the stay-at-home order, so my haircut appointment was canceled. So I think last week I was just done with it.
Mm-hmm.
I just buzzed it.
I'm getting there. It's starting to flip out the sides of my hat, and so I have to tuck my hair in my hat, which sucks. But I'm ready. I will be the first person at my barbershop when they open, for sure. What about you, Mitch? Have you got a haircut?
I don't know what to do.
You're just writing it out.
I got really annoyed with it like last week, and then I got into like a mode of just not caring anymore. And
hey, Jay says, Matt, you got a major haircut.
Yeah, same size up top as it is down here.
I will hope someone else comments, hey, Matt, you got a haircut, because that could just be the theme of the show.
It probably will be.
But we have Matt on the show not to talk about his hair, but to talk about wildlife photography. And you kind of wanted to talk and kind of hit on, black and white photography and monochrome.
Yeah, black and white's fun.
So we're happy to have you on again. You came on you're like you're like our second guest ever.
Yeah,
our third guest ever.
That was back on what would have been baseball's opening day.
That
was yesterday.
Yeah. Yesterday.
Yeah.
And so we had you on there to talk baseball photography and capturing pictures of the Rockies. So, but now we get to check out all your cool animal photos.
I'm ready. I'm ready to see some critters, man.
Matt, there are some pictures of birds in here, and that's not something I was expecting from you, because I know you don't really you're not like a bird guy.
If the light's right, the light's right.
All right. So people who are watching, there are some bird photos in here. Matt did take them. He didn't take them from someone else's website. So
we got.
All right. Sorry, you guys were skipping. I think it's my internet, to be honest with you guys.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sort of, you froze, and it sort of looked like you just were really happy with your joke. And you were just like.
That's how I always am. I'm always happy with my terrible joke. I'm going to share the screen. Let's see here. Application window. Oh, what did I do? Hold on. There we go.
You could pull that trick anytime in a live stream. You could just, if you don't want to answer a question, you could just.
If you're waiting for a while for the room to laugh.
Yeah, exactly. So the first one you put up here is the one I requested. But this is.
This is the one you requested, yeah.
Glenn thought I was waiting for applause. Thank you. Oh wait, I'm gonna uncover your face.
Behind the logo.
There we go. So just when you thought you had it all down, So I feel like mountain lions are pretty hard to track down, right? Because they probably know that you're there before you know that they're there.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So
is that a kill he's got there?
Yeah, that's what they call a cache site. I was actually tipped off to this location. It was on private land. The homeowner on the property, gave me permission to come out and attempt to photograph this cat, which we believe was a pregnant female, who had cached a deer at the base of his yard. Mm-hmm. So looked at it through Google Maps to try to figure out the best way to approach it on a safety side. And from what we could tell, it looked like we could drive up and park the car at the base of the hill, and we'd be able to get a fairly clean shot at it. And we got up, I think it was like late December when I got the call, and we got out there. It was 0 degrees, so we actually had to drive with the windows down and the heat off, so we could prevent heat distortion,
right.
because it was so cold. So if you ever do wildlife photography in the winter and you're using a vehicle as a blind, you can create your own heat distortion, which will cause lack of sharpness in your images. So we actually went in with that in mind. So we were driving around at 0 degrees with the windows down, and got a couple of minutes with this cat before the sun rose, and then she took off up the hill and went to, I don't really know where she went off to. We couldn't really tell, but she was more interested in the magpies in the area than anybody else. So
sure.
So how far away are you here from?
This is with a 500, and I will say it's a pretty heavy crop, not super heavy, but enough that we couldn't really fill the frame with the cat.
Sure.
If I had a 2X, I probably could have, but there just wasn't enough light to be able to capture it. Like, this was before sunrise. I want to say it was like 10 minutes before sunrise or so. So ISO was up pretty high. Shutter speed was pretty slow, and had vibration reduction on and trying to hand hold it out of car windows. So
right.
Got
Matt,
the eyes though.
Yeah, you did get the eyes. Matt, you do more well, out of everyone I know that's a wildlife photographer, I don't know a ton of them. But I feel like you do the most planning. I almost want to call it scheming, because you're just like, we're gonna take this animal's photo and this is how we're gonna do it. You have a map of everything.
Yeah.
You have a map of mountain lions in the area, right?
Yeah. I have actually I haven't done anything with it in the past probably 9 months or so, but after this, or prior to this, I had actually started a Google map where I was plotting sightings of them in the front, across the Front Range, in the Boulder and I'd say Jefferson County, and I was using news stories that had cross streets addressed in them, or certain neighborhood Facebook groups. If someone had said that they had seen one, I would see if I could get a GPS location. And then I also went into the state park, or the Colorado Parks and Wildlife released their data every year for where they capture, collar, and release them. But they're more general, area vicinities. So I just plotted all those out on a map and made it a little easier to try to triangulate some of the places for them.
Right. We've been trying to capture a picture of a river otter for, oh my God, what has it been since I've known you? And and
they're hard to find here in Colorado. I've got a picture of mountain lion, but not river otters.
Right. So That's on my bucket list of animals to take pictures of in Colorado is a river otter.
Yeah, and from the research that I've done, because I actually started a map for those to help Kyle.
Right.
And the research that I had shows that they were originally reintroduced in Rocky Mountain National Park on the west side at a couple of different times, but they had never been released on the Front Range side. And we now know that they're in Boulder County and along the Front Range. So at some point they crossed the divide and are now hanging out over there. So
right,
but we still haven't found them. I've got other friends of mine that I know have spotted them and photographed them
right
on this side of the Continental Divide, and I still haven't been able to find them.
Yeah, so let's go. This is a nice rimlet fox.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Backlit, I guess.
Good afternoon.
Yeah,
light. Yeah. That's an urban fox.
That's an urban fox. You know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of urban fox around right now.
Yep.
I see on everyone's feeds. Is it that time of year?
Well, this time of year is actually the time of year where they're producing offspring. So they're running around a lot, hunting a lot more because they have a lot more mouths to feed. So
right. Huh. That's why you see them more, I guess, huh?
Yep.
So here's one of your bird photos.
My bird photos. It's actually down by the camera store.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of places to see ducks. Is this around the fall?
Yes. Yeah, actually that photo, I usually go late in the fall, probably mid-October, early October, and photograph these ducks because the wood ducks are coming through and they're so colorful in their breeding plumage.
Sure.
And then you've got the reflections of fall colors in the ponds.
Exactly.
And then late afternoon, you get little pockets of light coming through the trees that haven't lost their leaves. So you get little moments like this. So it's definitely one of those situations where I'll actually shoot waterfowl just because of the light and the color.
Yeah.
If the light is right.
This photo
agreed
does have good color. I mean, these ducks have some great colors on them. So why wouldn't you take a picture?
Right. And then look at the light. I mean, it's like a spotlight.
Right. I love it. This was shot on. Wasn't this shot on a Sony A99?
No.
No,
it actually was not. I did start.
Okay.
I did start on a Sony A99 years ago. This was actually one of the first photos I took when I moved to Colorado, out at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. It was August 2015, and at that point in time, we had a ton of wildfire haze and smoke that was coming in from California, and I believe some was coming down from Washington State as well. There were wildfires all over, and that smoke was just getting caught up in the jet stream, and they were bringing it in.
Right.
But for like 2 weeks straight, we would get these sunsets that just had this crazy red. So I went out and tried to make some images with it.
That is one smug looking deer.
Oh yeah,
and he's like happy as hell, man. He's just like eating this grass.
Yeah.
And he's got fuzz on. He still has. Is it still for?
Yeah, he's still
fuzzy?
in velvet. Yeah.
All right, so he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to, crack another deer for a while. So he's just feeling himself.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We should just do. We should do play-by-play of what every animal's thinking in their images. That sounds pretty.
Yeah.
This one's cold.
Yeah, that was the first snow up in the Tetons. I was up there when I took that image. It was a couple of years ago, probably 2016. And the weird part about coming into the valley, we had just got there. We drove up there that day. So it was like 4:00 in the afternoon by the time we got there. And at one part of the valley, it was sunny, and you could see like moose in like fall colors. And then we drove up to the other end, and it was snowing. So we had some pronghorn that we could get to. fairly easily.
Sure.
Like the color in that one. That one's really nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. All right. So this is a deer who has to, some crash with another deer to prove it's
This is during the rut.
worth. This is the rut. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the best places in Colorado to shoot the rut if you're like a photographer?
If you're looking for deer like whitetail and mule deer, most people are driving around Rocky Mountain Arsenal, to be honest. You see a lot of images of what look like plains more than anything else. I mean, you can find deer anywhere in Colorado, but that area is just so concentrated, and because it's all federally protected land, those guys just get really big. And the light's fantastic. So this area is right off the road. Like I shot this out the car window. And you know me, I'm always watching the light and what it's doing. Most people, when they pull up on a scene, they're looking at, I got to make sure my camera settings are set up, and they're more worried about just getting a picture of what's in front of them as opposed to what the scene has the possibility of unfolding. So when I got here, I could see there was a little hill that had a little bit of light on it as the sun was going down, and the rest of the area behind it was completely in shadow. So I posted up and just waited for this buck to come through as he was chasing does around. And he happened to lift his head because he was running with his head down a bit. And then he stopped and circled back through and lifted his head up into the light. And that was it.
Nice. This is many a times you and I have gone and shot pictures of moose.
Yep.
And the best part of it is that no one else wakes up that early. Usually, it's when there maybe one or two other people, and so you get some really nice light on the moose in the morning. So explain to me. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's just a pretty unique area you can pretty much get first light, almost like an alpenglow on these guys. And if you shoot back towards the sun, there's some areas where you can actually create some dynamics between the light and the shadow and really get some dramatic stuff.
So Mitch and I are always talking about like getting up early to get the good light. How important is that?
It's pretty important.
Taking pictures of moose, or in general.
Moose have hollow hair, and it's very thick. And when the sun hits them, especially in the summer, they just head for the trees to get out of that heat. Especially with the way some of the summers have been here the last few years, they're 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the sun. I usually see them heading towards the trees. Some days you'll get lucky and they'll hang out a little longer, but it definitely hasn't been great anyway. So
this picture scares me. I'm afraid of moose, man.
Yeah, so like this is like
a
400. This is like a 400, right? And crop a little bit, or what?
300.
300. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places you can shoot moose out your window, though, in Colorado.
Well, I mean, it's a massive mammal.
Right.
So filling a 300, I mean, you still have to be pretty far back.
Right.
And it kind of depends on the area that you're in, what you're using for a telephoto. Because I've used 3s, 4s, 5s, and 5s with teleconverters, 3s with teleconverters. Just kind of depending on the situation. And you kind of got to play that by ear too. Like up here, I usually run around with a 300 and a 500, and whatever I can see from the scene unfolding, I'll switch from one to the other, and make those images.
You're using the the new Nikon 300 and 500.
Right, the PFs, the light ones.
PFs.
But
Yeah.
I have used the other big telephotos too. But when you're trying to be mobile and agile, those small light lenses make it really, really quick and easy. It's probably like using Sony's 1-400 type thing, where it's extremely light and quick, and you can kind of just worry more about composing and getting set up for the way the light's working, and you can actually create as opposed to fumbling with your settings and trying to make sure that you've got something close, kind of thing.
Yeah,
right.
Composition on that one's really good too. Speaking of that, because I know exactly where to look. I'm not distracted by anything, so I like that one a lot.
Well, and that's the thing with black and whites. What I'm looking for in a black and white is I'm looking for stark contrast. Like I want the viewer to be able to see the brightest part as where the eye's going to go, and then have some dark drop off behind them. I do the same thing with baseball photography too. Like the best black and whites are going to have a huge difference in terms of where the brightest brights are and the darkest darks. And a moose is dark brown. Like this vegetation is green, and those are actually pine trees in the background that are in the shade. So being able to find the right angle to get all of those things to line up, it takes a lot of work and patience.
Yeah. Next image. How about this one, Mitch? Does that scare you more?
Yeah. I'm gonna have nightmares about these moose, man. I don't know what it is. They look like
they're demon horses with big gold.
Yeah, they look a little bit possessed to me. I don't know.
Yeah, similar situation here.
I mean, they're cool to look at, though. I mean,
yeah. Well, that's what I'm going for too. Is I want to evoke the drama with the light. Because at this point in the morning, these guys are just munching on willows. I mean, they're not doing much.
Right.
So in order to create something dramatic, you have to use the light in the most creative way possible to get something different, or else you're just going to have a picture of a moose standing in the willows eating breakfast, which everybody else has.
Yeah, Matt, this image is bringing the comments, man. Like they're just coming. Glenn says, "Love this Loki stuff," and says, "Powerful image." And then Alex, I think he meant the last image, but he probably means this image as well. Awesome moose photo. So, yeah, Alex, if you're still watching, I'll email you back tomorrow when I get back to the camera shop. Let's see here. And now we're going to Africa. So you went to Africa in last summer around June.
Last June, around Father's Day. Yeah, right. Mid to late June.
And I think those are some of my favorite photos of yours, especially the black and whites. But everything has got such great texture out there.
And well, that's part of the thing that black and white can do is you can really find texture. Not to say that you can't find that in color, but your eye, I guess your brain kind of looks at it differently, and it breaks down the elements in a more I guess fine art way. And that's kind of why I lean towards that in this image.
Matt, do you use the texture slider at all?
I think it just depends on the image. If it's something that has a lot of texture in it, won't hesitate to use it. Something like this, it's something that you can also use the brush in Lightroom, because if you use it in the actual adjustment panel, it's more of a global adjustment, and you don't necessarily want to add texture to your background. Or if you've got something with a lot of noise, you don't want to accentuate it. So it's selectively you can use it too.
Sure.
Talk
to me about.
That's cool.
Yeah, talk to me about black and white skies.
This is actually not infrared. The next time I go back to Africa, I am going to take an infrared camera with me. But one of the things that I learned early on and studying the works of like Ansel Adams.
This infrared camera?
Yeah. I'd actually like to get one of the Nikon mirrorless ones converted, but I haven't got there yet. But back to how I made this. So in the black and white landscape stuff that I do, I read up a lot on Ansel Adams' work, and he used a red filter, which cuts blue skies and makes them basically black. However, I didn't travel with a red filter to Africa. I traveled with a polarizer, which I can basically create the same effect with. By turning the polarizer to its maximum, I can get a blue sky really, really dark blue. And then when you convert that to black and white, that actually has a very similar effect.
You can go into Lightroom too, and just find the blue channel and lower the.
You can, but it'll actually create some artifacting around some of your edges if you go too much.
Right.
So this was how I figured out a way to get around the artifacting part of it, was to use the polarizer.
I feel like all the sliders need like a no reminder, like at some point. Oh, we broke Kyle.
What do you got, Kyle?
Am I back now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. It was a crazy trip, guys. It's just like every time I disappear or I freeze, I'm like in space warp somewhere else. Or overdrive, or what is it called in Star Wars?
Hyperdrive.
Hyperdrive. Or am I thinking Star Trek?
I don't know anything about Star Trek.
I was trying to offend Mitch. That's all. But yeah, so another great, the best light. What time did you wake up and go to when did you wake up to go shooting, and when did you go out to shoot in the evening?
Oh, in Africa?
Yeah.
We were more directed by the camps that we were at. And they were in charge of setting everything up in terms of what time we would get up and what time we would go out in the evening. But for the morning game drives, they would wake you up. I believe our coffee would be delivered at like 4:45, and then we would be out at like 5:30 or we'd meet at the mess tent at like 5:30. And then we'd get in the car and kind of head out as sun was rising. A couple mornings we would get out right as sunrise went. Like I did some portraits of some of the Maasai warriors as the sun was coming up in the Mara. But in Samburu, it was a little different because it just kind of depended on what they had for goals for that day.
Sure.
Like this image probably was towards the end of one of our morning game drives in Samburu. It's probably closer to 9:30 in the morning on our way to the airstrip. But the basically how I ended up processing this was through a custom preset that I developed in Lightroom to help combat different color tones so that I could highlight the gray texture of him and bring all the green foliage and blue sky down. And that was with a 300, so I couldn't really put a polarizer on it. So,
oh, okay. The 300 isn't like those PF lenses have really pretty, normal size filters on them.
Yeah, I think that 300 is like a 77.
77. I bet you the 500 is like an 80. 105
I think it's like a 96. I think it's very similar to Sigma or Tamron Super Zoom.
Sure. Yeah.
But I didn't carry anything for the 500, and
you'd just be like,
yeah. And it's harder with the 300 to get that stuff to screw on because of the way the threads are in the front. So
sure.
I tend to keep the filters for the wider angle stuff just because you get more clouds in it and stuff. And if you're really pushing a polarizer on a scene like this, you're going to lose like a couple stops of light too. So
giraffe There's a lot of giraffe out there, huh?
Yeah, we actually saw 3 different kinds while we were there. This is a Maasai giraffe, found in the Maasai Mara, and then we saw reticulated giraffe and the Rothschild giraffe. So
is a difference like their horn, like the little horns and their spots, or what?
It's just the patterns, more or less,
Okay.
and the kind of the regions that they are located in.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite ones from the trip.
Yeah. So, Mitch, are you scared now?
No.
You're not scared of cats, but you're scared.
No, I know what they're up to, man. It's like it's obvious what he wants.
If I had eye contact, it would be a little more intimidating. And I think the other thing that would be nice is being at eye level as opposed to being slightly above.
Sure.
But it's hard to do that when you're sitting in a safari vehicle. So
right. So you just don't want to jump down there, Matt, and face to face with this guy?
No, I was actually on the back side of the car when I took this. I had the 500 on, and we had been kind of following a lead that we had heard from a couple other drivers along this gully, and we happened to see the tail flick in one side of the bush, and we came around the other side, and he just popped up, and his head came out in this like golden warm light, and basically the African sunset that you see in The Lion King was happening on the other side. Basically the same colors that were in that mule deer image earlier were happening off onto the horizon, and this cat just kind of popped out into it, and it made for a really dramatic black and white. The color image is just as crazy, but
yeah. And then this is at a pretty high ISO, if I remember you telling me.
It's actually at 3200 ISO.
Right. This is super clean for 3200 ISO.
Well, and the other trick with that is when we came around the corner, the sun wasn't out. It was behind a cloud, so I was actually sitting probably a half stop or 2/3 of a stop warmer than I needed to be. So I actually ended up bringing the exposure down a little bit in post in Camera Raw, which actually helps suppress some of the noise.
Sure.
Because in a raw file, most of the noise is actually in the shadows. So you won't see any hardly at all at that point.
Super cool. That almost so with wildlife, it's a lot of it's behavior. You're learning a lot of behavior about animals. So like, what would be probably the strangest behavior you've witnessed with any, doesn't matter what kind, but just like something weird you didn't expect?
Well, I guess I don't know if I've seen anything that I didn't expect, but there are some times where you can get into some uncomfortable situations, like the moose rut in Grand Teton. There's an area of the park where there's a number of bulls that are running around, and a number of yearlings, and a number of cows that are looking to mate, and it can get a little weird because you can end up having moose behind you as well as in front of you, and then there's sage, cottonwoods, and willows, and they just kind of come out of every direction. So a couple years ago, I was standing on the bank of one of the rivers up there, and I had a cow moose come running down the bank. She was trying to get the attention of one of the bulls in the area, and she just about ran me over. I had to jump up into the willows behind a cottonwood tree to get out of the way, and it was it's the only time I've ever had a moose come running at me was that, and it was just a young cow who had all the pheromones going. So
I don't mess with moose, man. No.
We had that fox follow us for like a good half mile in Rocky Mountain.
Oh yeah. That was weird. That fox was looking for handouts though, and
yeah, it must have known that we were it was like in the most popular tourist spot in the Poudre Valley.
As soon as it realized we weren't going to feed it, it took off to the fisherman. It was looking for fresh caught fish.
Right. So let's see. Yeah, I love this this leopard image. And so how about that? Nature is metal, guys. Nature's metal.
Oh man, that was so. The craziest time on my trip was down in the Mara. I mean, we saw some stuff in the Mara. That leopard was in the Mara. Mm-hmm. The tent we were camped in, and I say tent, but it's a tent, but it's got like hardwood floors in it, kind of thing.
Sure.
But
you were glamping,
basically. Outside our tent, we had a lion all night long, both nights, chuffing, which is what they do when they do that kind of guttural roar.
Right.
And they're trying to call if it was a male. I never saw which one it was, but if it was a male, it would have been calling for the pride. If it was a female, that it would have been calling in as well. But this female, we watched it the next morning hunting, and we're on the early end of the wildebeest migration. So we knew that there were some weak ones because we could see some of them like limping, and there were some early born calves that were walking around, and we saw this lion take off through the gully and come up the bank behind the Land Rover, and she took this one out right in front of us and then drug it across the river back up the hill right outside our tent. So yeah, we definitely we were glad to see that it wasn't hungry the next night, even though
right, yeah,
even though we heard them all night. So
that's crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like watch me eat.
Yeah,
it's like this could be you.
Yeah. Thankfully, this one was not outside our tent that we found, but
I thought those were all.
Those are flies.
Oh, they are bugs all over them. Oh wow.
Yeah.
No, they're just freckles, Mitch.
No, the Maasai told us that with the wildebeest come the flies, and I believe part of that is when the wildebeest come to the Mara side, it's because of all of the predation by the cats. There's a lot of death, so the vultures and lions just constantly covered in them. I didn't see any on the leopard, but
he kind of looks like, hey, I wish he would just go away.
Yeah,
that's definitely.
It also looks like he's resting.
Yeah, we found two brothers on the morning we were headed to the airstrip, and they were just lounging. And they were in like some really low sunlight, and this one just happened to be basking in it. So,
do they? You say an airstrip? How big of a plane do you take in and out of there?
It kind of depends. When we flew in, we were on a plane that fit like 10 people on it.
Oh, okay.
And you're landed on a dirt airstrip. And on the plane that we took out back to Nairobi, I think it would hold closer to 40. But it was definitely an interesting experience.
Do they give you a pretty restrictive like weight?
Yeah, I basically had to pay for baggage overage. Because of the weight of equipment, and I actually didn't take like a 400 2.8 or 600 f4. I actually took the PF primes, the 300 f4 and the 500 5.6, because I knew I could take two primes with me and cover a lot, and the total weight of both of them was going to be like 5 pounds maybe.
Yeah.
So my 400 2.8 at the time was 11.5 pounds, and I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, it adds up quick.
Yeah,
it's that's interesting that you got to think about that before you go.
Yeah,
out there is like, is my gear gonna weigh the plane down?
Yeah, and I took 2 camera bodies, and I think I had 4 or 5 lenses with me, and then I had a duffel bag with all my clothes, and I was doing some video for the company that I was working for, so I had a gimbal inside the duffel bag. as well. So I was pretty well covered.
Yeah.
So
how much was the overweight fee?
It's about the cost of whatever they're charging for a seat.
Okay.
Or it's half the price of a seat, or sometimes it's like what they charge for like a child or something like that. It just kind of depends on what airline you're with. But yeah, it was definitely a little extra.
Sometimes I wish I could buy a whole seat just for my gear on a regular flight.
Right. Yeah. Dude, I wonder how many people would actually do that. Yeah. You just got to get that media pre-board.
You don't get that on Kenya Air.
That's true. So the bighorn sheep, what season is bighorn sheep? I always thought, like, whenever you're like, let's go shoot bighorn sheep, I'm always like, I can't believe this is the season for bighorn sheep. It's like it's an odd time of year.
It's kind of late. It usually starts late October and into early December. It's usually when the rut is. You could shoot them any time of year if you can find them.
Sure.
Yeah. This one's down in Waterton Canyon, so it's not far from the shop. It's pretty notorious for having lots of them. There's basically a herd that lives up in the canyon, and they come down to graze and drink water out of the stream. So if in the right situation, you can get some really nice light because the canyon winds around, and you can create really dark shadows and direct light. And it's just the sun sets a little earlier when you're in the canyon because it disappears. So you kind of got to get it right.
They have such crazy eyes.
Oh yeah,
like radioactive.
Yeah, this was with a 400.
That's some action.
Imagine Mitch right between those.
I'm not there. I'm not going to be anywhere near that. I'm gone.
Yeah, this is another one from the Tetons. I love that area, Jackson Hole and Teton National Park. This is probably one of my favorite moose images. Last year I was trying to do more with like environmental portraiture, and trying to get a low angle in the middle of a sage field is not easy because you can't really sit down. So I did some work here and managed to get low enough where I could get right at his eye level as he was turning. And he just happened to make eye contact with me as he turned and walked off to the left. But this was with the 300. So
that one's great. I love the fall off on the grass at the bottom.
Yeah, and part of that was I was low enough so I had some of that sagebrush like foreground elements, so it actually created its own kind of out of focus area. And I was trying to get the mountain peak in there with him juxtaposed over it. And you hope for eye contact because you're trying not to be a distraction. You want to be as natural in that element as possible so that they're not as aware of your surroundings. Like you don't want to surprise them and like piss them off or anything. So
no,
sure,
but they
no, I know
they do know you're there. It's just you're the last thing on their mind.
Are these different types of moose? Those two that you just showed us. They look.
Well, this one's this one's out of the rut.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's just
so it's shed its velvet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's 3 subspecies of moose, and down in the lower 48, we have one known as the Shiraz moose. There's another subspecies in Canada, and then a third one in Alaska. And those guys make these guys look like show ponies.
Yeah, if you ever seen Alaska moose, they're just crazy. So this was actually, is this the photo that was on Disney Plus?
No, but it's same scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Disney Plus licensed an image recently of the elk in Rocky Mountain for a documentary that they produced in 1952, but they needed a picture for like the click screen on their app.
Mhm.
So they somehow found mine.
So go on Disney Plus, everyone, and look for the moose or the elk documentary.
It's the Olympic elk.
I will.
Olympic elk.
I like elk a lot more than moose, so I'll be happy to watch that.
Yeah. I haven't shot the elk rut in a while. I went up there last year, and there was just a lot of people around, so I just kind of left it at that. And the time that I was out there, they were way out in the field, and I didn't really want to go out in there, even though there were some photographers already out there. I just didn't want to be part of that. So
yeah, with this quarantine thing and like people traveling less, I imagine in October there might be less people out at Rocky Mountain National Park shooting the rut.
Well, right now Rocky Mountain's closed to the public, so there may not be anybody shooting, depending on when they reopen.
That's true. If it stays closed, I can't imagine it would stay closed through October, but who knows?
I highly doubt it. But
yeah,
that is also a smug animal.
Yeah, that's in Rocky Mountain National Park as well, with a 400. Yeah, there's plenty of wildlife opportunities all over the place. So
it's so expressive. He looks like he just caught a rabbit or something, and he's like, "Yeah, that's right."
Like, yeah, this is going down.
Yeah, that one almost has a little bit of like a Rembrandt to the way the light falls across his face. So it's kind of, and you kind of wonder, when you start looking at like lighting situations from a portraiture standpoint, if you can get that in a wildlife standpoint, like the moose in front of the mountain has that same kind of light hitting it. So it's kind of interesting when you get those genres to cross.
It's pretty awesome. He's got pretty clean teeth.
Yeah, so you can kind of see it coming across the front of the nose there.
Yeah, look how.
Hold on.
Yeah. It's not quite the triangle on the other side, but it's very, very similar.
Sure. Right on. Wildlife photography. It's you gotta plan, and you gotta have a long lens. Everyone says you always want to get longer.
Well, and I think it kind of depends on the mood that you're trying to convey as well.
Right.
Long lenses create really shallow backgrounds and separation, and you separate the animal, and that's what you're getting. Like the photo of the coyote, like you don't really get a sense of place. Like it's an animal, it's a portrait. But the wider you get, I mean, David Yarrow's kind of said it before. It's based on an Ansel Adams quote. It's the lens looks both ways, and the shorter the lens, the more you can see into the soul, right? So he shoots stuff super wide. He'll use remote cameras to shoot elephants with like a 24, or he'll shoot with like a 200 f2 out in Amboseli and get those types of scenes like this. I haven't quite mustered it up yet to try to shoot a moose with a 200 f2 or even a 135. I'd love to do that, but trying to get there and get the situation to work right and still be safe. Because at least when you're in some of those places, you can, if you're setting up a remote, you can get away. You can't really set up a remote here because you're in sagebrush, so you'd have to set a tripod and you'd have to sit a couple feet off the ground with it, and I don't know.
So a general rule you follow when to call it on risk factor with certain animals?
I still try to make sure that they have their space. If I'm shooting with a wide angle, it's still something that I would be able to shoot portrait with at 300, 400. So it basically depends on the scene. So
for sure. Right on. Let me put the brand thing back on. Here we go. Look at that. I know how to run this show.
Nice. So
you guys eating tacos tonight or what?
I actually had them last night.
You had tacos last night?
Yeah.
I always tend to have tacos the day before you're supposed to have tacos. I'm always a Monday night taco guy, but we're having tacos tonight, so I'm super excited.
Nice.
And tequila. And I bought a lime lager. So should be good. What about you, Mitch?
I don't know. I gotta go to the grocery store.
Don't go hungry. That's the worst.
Gosh, what would I get? I want sushi so bad, but
really,
I haven't.
You want that King Super's sushi?
Maybe that's what I'll get.
Maybe King Super. You got to order from a real sushi restaurant.
Who's open?
I mean, I imagine there's a lot of great sushi restaurants doing takeout. So why don't you just research?
I really liked that Smoking Fins place.
Smoking Fins, they have some pretty good. Yeah.
I don't know if they're doing curbside or whatever, carry out. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. You have to hit it.
Maybe that's what I'll do.
Search on Postmates or something, You'll be good to go. So, well, Matt, super thankful that you joined us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Second time you're our second repeat guest. No, first repeat guest. My goodness.
Yeah, I think you're the first person we've had on twice.
It's a different genre.
On twice. Yeah, it's true. It was you and then Mark from Tamron. He's threatening to come back on now that he has all 6 of the Sony mirrorless lenses.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So he can just put them all in a row. I think that's what he wants to do. I think he just wants to sit there with all of them in a row.
Nice.
So, but yeah, we'll have some opening news. I have to figure out when we tell everyone when we're opening. That way it's like a thing. But we'll post on our Facebook here soon for everyone who's watching when we're going to open. Matt said he's going to be first in line, so I have to stand behind him.
There we go. Got to see what's in the used shop.
Exactly. Everything. The cases are they're getting put back together right now, so they'll look good. They'll look good for everyone when we do open again. So soon. But sweet. This has been Camera Shop Talk for Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. The second day in a row that has
there's before we go, there's more F-16s flying over tomorrow.
Really?
They're not it's not Thunderbirds, but I think it's the Air National Guard.
Really? They're just going to fly us again?
They're going over there's a map of it that I could text you really quick.
Yeah, text it to me and we'll put it on the screen so everyone could see. Are they going to go over Denver?
Yeah, they're going to go over Denver. They are going to go over Estes Park, and I was considering maybe. My only concern,
some F-16s flying by.
I just wonder how low they would go in Estes, because it'd be really cool if they came below the ridgeline. But here we go. I can send it to you now.
Perfect. I'll put it on the screen if it ever gets to me with our Wi-Fi.
And I think tonight if we get a clear enough sky, I thought there was supposed to be a decent level of meteors to see, but
decent level of what?
Meteors.
There's a meteor shower coming.
Meteors. Oh yeah. Let's see. It's going to go from between 4:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Let's see if there's a map here.
There's a map like halfway down.
Oh, hold on. Dun, 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 dun. You sent me this. Let's see. Whoa. There it is. Let's see. It's going to go between 4:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Uh-oh. Did I freeze?
You just like we just heard your voice from the past.
I know, my voice from the past just came out of nowhere. Uh-oh. Pam says there's a full moon.
Oh, that ruins everything.
She's trolling Nat.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
yeah, he's not a big moon guy.
If you could create a great composition with the moon, I like those photos, but
put an F-16 in front of it.
Yeah, usually I just see pictures
of
the moon, and it's always just the moon.
So here's the map of their flight pattern for Wednesday. You said
tomorrow.
Or is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, Tuesday, isn't it?
They're gonna fly over.
Today's Tuesday. Yeah. And so, man, they're flying all the way to Aspen. That's crazy.
I guess the best place to be is around Centennial, because you get to see them twice. But I don't know, you could get a cool, I don't know how low they would go. You could get a pretty cool shot if you were in Estes or Winter Park or something.
Imagine if they just buzz the tops of the maroon bells. That'd be sick.
My guess is they'll fly right over Long's Peak.
Yeah,
because they're flying over that side.
So that would be interesting.
But
so, folks, this is your
tailing away from you.
Yeah.
For all of you with 500 millimeters, get them ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe I'll shoot. I'll sit out in the front yard. Boy, yeah, I'll sit. We'll be doing a show. Imagine if they fly over in the middle of our show. Oh my God, I'd be so upset. What if we just did our show waiting for them to pass by?
Couldn't we do it from the phone?
It looks like we'll just fly over the store.
Yeah, they might fly over the store. We could say that they did a special flyover just for Inglewood Camera.
There you go.
No, but yeah, we'll post this on our Facebook and whatnot, so people can check it out and plan accordingly. Yeah, they're gonna hit Denver 3 minutes after we start the show. Maybe we'll do the show after.
Well, it depends on what time schedule they keep too. The Thunderbirds were like an hour late.
I vote we do the show late and we go get pictures of these and then we talk about it on the show.
That's a good idea. We'll start the show at 6:30 tomorrow.
Especially since I missed the Thunderbirds. Well, I got to see them, but true. My camera was in my truck and I was.
You deserve to.
This is my second chance. But cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, Matt, thanks again. And
thanks for having me on.
Let's head out of here. All right. Let's go eat those tacos, drink that tequila, grab your Corona. All right, but not too much Corona. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.